Peace and greetings. What's good? It's your girl Naya here, and I'm back for another video. So this video is gonna be the first in a series of the opening of the key spread. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to the Book of Thoth, in the back where he talks about the divination section. He talks about the opening of the key being a traditional method of divination. Okay, so I'm like, all right, I get that. Now I've done this spread before. I've modified it to work for me, so I'm probably just gonna fill in certain part. Anyways, I'm just gonna go with it. We're gonna go with it. So basically, the first thing that he suggests you do is pick a significator for the querent, or yourself, if you're doing it for yourself. In my case, it would probably be the Queen of Pentacles, but we're gonna just run with it. So anyway, so you choose the significator card based on their character or whatever the case is. And then you want to take the deck of cards, and basically he's saying you want to do an invocation to basically invoke the great angel to set, the way he says it here, and I'm omitting some of it because when I don't know stuff, I don't like saying it out loud. Okay. I still have like my own research to do too, but anyways, it's basically saying I invoke the whomever you want to invoke, the great angel that is set over the operations of this secret wisdom, to lay his hand invisibly upon these consecrated cards of art, that thereby we may obtain true knowledge of hidden things, to the glory of thy ineffable name. Amen. And then it says to hand the cards to the querent, to think of the question and cut the cards. Then you take the cards back and hold them for dealing. Okay. Now I know when I watched Paul Hughes Barlow, his video, he says he has the querent cut the cards into the 4 stacks and reads it from there. And then I'll explain to you. So now we're at the first operation, right? So the first operation, it says it shows you the situation of the querent at the time when they consult you. So with the pack being in front of you, you cut and place the top half to the left, and then you place the and then you cut it to the left again. So basically what you're doing is you are this is supposed to be a representation of the tetragrammaton. So you have Yod Hey Val Hey, right? Hey final. And then you want to look for the significator. So I'm going to turn the camera around and we're going to just go through, like, we'll do it like if we're talking about me. Okay. We'll just do it that way. Okay. So basically you take your cards, right? And you want to cut them to the left. And then you want to take, so this is Yod opening up to the, Val, and then Yod Hey Val Hey, like that, right? So then we know what each of these stacks means in the terms of it being like, fire, water, air, and earth. So that's what each stack represents. Okay. And whatever that means to you, you can expand on that if as you're doing the reading. And so basically it says find the significator. If it be in the Yod pack, the question refers to work or business. If it's in the Hey, to love, marriage, or pleasure. If it's in the Val, it's trouble, loss, scandal, quarreling, etc. If it's in the Hey final pack, to money, goods, and material things. So that's what I'm saying. Tell the querent what he has come for. If wrong, abandon the divination. So I don't know exactly what that means, to abandon the divination, because I've never really done that. I don't know how you would abandon it. Like, what do you say? Oh, no, 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 we just can't do it. I feel like that's so abrupt. But anyway, so we're gonna look for the Queen of Coins here. So we're looking. Okay, she's not in there, so I'm just gonna leave that like that. Okay, she's not in there. Queen of Discs. All right, so I was going through them, and she's here, so I'm just gonna keep them in order, but move the queen on top. So basically, if I wanted to read these two stacks, I can kind of see what an overarching theme is for, like, let's say, here, my work, business, venture, here's this completion where, you know, the structure is built and things are pretty much squared off and solid. Stay over there. In the emotional realm, in the second stack being kind of the emotional realm, here we have prudence, where, you know, admittedly, I'd have to say I have been working on processing some things, you know, a lot of things, but trying to deal with them one at a time, and trying to be diligent about releasing things that, you know, that aren't something that I need to actually be holding on to. It's not really my burden to bear, or you know, opening up to new things, but really just working on the emotional realm for myself, you know, to just for some self-healing and stuff like that. Okay, so then in the troubles pile, or the swords pile, you know, loss of trouble, scandal, quarreling. Well, admittedly, I have to say, you know, I just recently learned about a family member passing away, and, you know, she was pretty much kind of like the matriarch of that side of the family, and all that is a big loss for sure. So it, you know, it doesn't surprise me that my significator would come up in this pile, because it is heavily on my mind. So yeah, so we're there with that. I really, since the significator come up, I don't have to look at the last pile. It's, you know, I could if I want to, just to kind of see where my money is, but that is like the least of my concerns right now. So I'm removing the rest of the cards because we don't need them for the next portion. So then what we want to do basically is we want to deal the cards out. Now, ideally, you would do a big long string. See, this is sometimes why I don't record you guys, because they be acting crazy. Okay. So basically, you want to deal out all the cards that are in the stack in order, which you can't even see all of them, but okay, don't worry. So if everything is right, which in my case is very much was in the correct stack, then you want to count the cards from the significator in the direction in which he faces. So the queen in the Thoth deck, she faces to the left. So I would be counting backwards from the bottom of what I had, which sounds kind of weird, right? But anyways, I'm gonna count to the left is basically what it is. Count the cards from him in the direction which he faces. The counting should include the card from which you count. So she would be 1. So for knights, queens, and princes, count 4. Okay, so let's talk about the counting real fast. For the knights, queens, and princes, count 4. For princesses, count 7. For aces, count 11 is what that looks like. For small cards, count according to the number, and for trumps, count 3 for elemental trumps, 9 for planetary trumps, and 10 for 12, for zodiacal trumps. And then you want to make a story of these cards, and this is the story that's the beginning of the affair. All right, so let's try this. So this is the part that, you know, I feel like it bothers my intuition a little bit, but it's like a precursor to the actual reading of the cards. So anyways, so Queen is 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the Queen of Cups here, which I don't know how I'm gonna mark these because I'm working with solo space, right? So I already counted her. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is now the Hermit, and he is zodiacal, so 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which is the Magus. Okay, he is Mercury, which is a planet, so that's gonna be 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Knight of Discs is gonna be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now that I've gotten back to where the count landed on my significator, I don't have to count any more cards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the cards that weren't counted. Now, this whole first operation, you can play with this. You can, you know, find the significance in the cards that weren't counted, you know, and all that kind of stuff there. But just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to just remove what wasn't counted. So, boom. And now I still want to keep them in order, so I'm doing this here. Okay, so really we want to do it in a string, like all together, you know what I mean? But my camera is not really doing the most right now. So, all right, so in my situation here, we have, you know, I feel like in my situation, to read it as a string, you know, how do I explain this? She was very much so, like I said, she was like the rock of the family. But anyways, this is me. So here we have the Magus, and we could think about the Queen and the Magus here. And I really feel like the Magus is about power. It's about prayer. It's about communication, of course. And, you know, I did my little, like, my little ritual that I would do when I know folks pass away and stuff like that, because it is what it is. You know, and I really do it out of a place of love. It's not really it's just something that I do. But I feel like these two cards here are just talking about this quality of doing ritual out of love and kind of sending that energy into the ethers, which I feel like is kind of where this Knight of Swords comes, because I do use my words to pray or, you know, chant, whatever you want to call it. I feel like it's all the same. You know, and then with the Knight of Discs, it's, you know, also that sense of it's a long-term process. It's not something, even though I work on it, it's not something that's going to bear quick results or quick solutions, right? It takes time. And of course, the Hermit coming up, you know, there's this sense of, you know, having the inner light and knowing that sometimes you have to be alone to process things, and sometimes you have to walk down a not so bright path, but also keep the light shining within you in order to get through it, right? To rise out of it, to be wise, and maybe even to go back and reflect on you know, the journey so far, and what have you learned from it? What have I learned from it? What have I, you know, what wisdom have I gained from it? And whatnot. You know, the Hermit is also, I've heard him referred to as Father Time, you know, the older version of the Fool. So you think from 1 to 9, what are all the lessons in between there, you know? And then here we have the Queen of Cups following. There's just this emotional depth, this emotional place of feels when it comes to the loss of any, you know, close friend or family member or anything like that. So I feel like, you know, these cards are all pretty much accurate as far as, you know, what it's concerning and whatnot. So here's your first operation in a nutshell, and it's easier for me to just kind of go through it as a reading as opposed to breaking it all down in, you know, like technically or whatever. Now, I do want to stop for a second to discuss the counting of the cards. Now, I understand that the knights, queens, and princes count 4 because they're court cards. I'm not sure why princesses are counted as 7. I haven't processed that yet. For aces, it says count 11, and I'm thinking this is a way of, if you just count 1 for an ace and an ace is next to it, like, you know, I don't know, like, I would think to count aces as 1, but I'm guessing you can do it as 1 or 11. And then for the minors, according to the number, that makes sense to me. And then for the trumps, it makes sense to me too. But for those of you that don't know, counting 3 for elemental trumps would be the Fool, because the Fool is elemental air, Aleph. The Hangman is Mem, which is elemental water, and then Aeon or Judgment, elemental fire, which is Shin, if I'm not mistaken. So 9 for planetary trumps, which I'm assuming at the time that the deck was made, we're just talking about the 9 planets, the way that we learned it in school way back when. And then of course 12 for the 12 zodiac trump, you know, sign. So that makes sense to me. So, you know, so the ones that I can't never remember is like the princess. I always have to pull the book out if I'm doing it, because I'm like, wait, the princess is what? Oh yeah, 7. You know what I mean? And aces are 11. So I haven't figured out the madness from that myself personally. I'll get there, but that's all right. You know, no big deal. So anyway, so we know that this worked, right? Okay, so that's the first operation. I'm gonna stop this video because it's already at 15 minutes, or like 20 minutes, and then we'll jump into the second operation. Peace and greetings. What's good? This is an amendment to the first operation part. When I was reading the string of cards, I forgot to pair them, and what that means essentially, and just to give you an idea, like let's say I had after I had counted them, after I pulled out the ones that were counted and I was reading that string of cards, you know what I mean? I can't remember how many I had, which I'm sorry, that's kind of important, and I missed it. So basically you want to take your outside cards. So if this was all in one long line, these would be like the outside cards, right? And you would want to pair them from the outside going in. So you would take these two, after you read the string by itself, then you would start pairing them and reading them together, because this fills in additional details to the story that you created with the first string of cards. That's what that does. That is mentioned in the book, and I totally overlooked it. And I do it naturally, but because I was like trying to follow the book and go step by step, I kind of like accidentally skipped over it. Might have been a subliminal thing. So anyways, amendment to part 1.